Hey. Welcome to the Steeple Playhouse, home of your theater, for the 13th in-person meeting of the New Bedford Light Fine Arts Club. My name is Brennan Curie. I'm the Director of Audience for the Light. We're coming up on 2 years of holding these meetings in person, and once again we have another incredibly talented batch of artists, as well as an amazing featured artist, Mandy, Fraser. Each one of the artists who will speak today has a unique journey, and we'll get to hear how they discovered their passion for the arts, what inspires them creatively, and their process for turning a simple idea into an incredible piece of work. And hopefully we'll all leave inspired and energized. First, a little bit about the Light. We are a free, nonprofit, nonpartisan, online news outlet serving the readers of Greater New Bedford with vital information about their local community. But while we spend much of our time digging into city finances, exploring the indignities and solutions for the ongoing addiction crisis, uncovering what led to the demise of the Star Store, or shedding light on the inner workings of the waterfront, we also make a point to celebrate the cultural richness that makes New Bedford such a special place. And that brings us here to the Fine Arts Club. We were inspired by the Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club to offer a place for artists to gather, share their experiences, and give us a peek into their process, and of course, sell some art. And that's really important. Everything you see tonight is for sale. You can take home anything that stirs your spirit, to simply talk to the artists after the presentations, or use the contact information in your programs. We hope you stick around after the presentations for the Afterglow, which is your chance to talk to the artists one-on-one. A little bit of quick housekeeping. There are restrooms there's one up here in the back, and then there's also a couple downstairs if anyone needs those. So now let's introduce our two extremely talented hosts and artists in their own right. Devin Yvette McLaughlin is a multifaceted artist based in New Bedford. He uses an array of styles and mediums in his art, ranging from classical to abstract. Native to South Coast New England, he finds an endless source of inspiration in the surrounding mix of post-industrial cities, rural landscapes, and the Atlantic. Yvette's passion lie in connecting and developing creative communities and cultivating an appreciation for the arts. He is frequently involved in teaching painting workshops and educating individuals through schools, museums, and private instruction. And somewhere in the back there, we have Scott Bishop. Scott Bishop lives in New Bedford with his wife and daughters. He makes music under the name Scapegoats, and in June, he will be releasing 2 new ambient records, both recorded at the New Bedford Farmers Market, and recently his music video Polaroid Dreams was a nominee at the New Bedford Film Festival. So here we go, Devin, take it away.
Thank you so much, Brendan. Welcome to the Fine Art Club, everybody. We are here to talk with artists about work that they've produced recently. We're going to be showing the work up here on stage, so you'll be able to see the work here, as well as on our projector screen, so you can take a look at either of those if you want to take a look. Any of the artwork here, like we were saying, is for sale. You can talk with the artist directly during our Afterglow. The Afterglow is a time where you can mix and mingle, talk with the artist, get a little bit of a refreshment, and hang out with us. During the performance here, we're going to ask that you please silence your phones. This is going to be a recorded thing, so we don't want to have any ringing in the background, so if you could do that, that would be wonderful. And like we said, we have our disembodied voice from the crowd, Scott Bishop, back there.
Hello there.
Hello. So Scott is going to be in the crowd. He'll be able to take questions from the crowd after our artist is talking. Our artists will only have 5 minutes to speak to you about their work and their life and what their experience as an artist actually is. So if everybody could join me in welcoming our first artist, Michael Matheron. Welcome, Michael. So your first 2 pieces here are And There It Is, this beautiful piece here with a field and a big orange ball, and Sunset of the Wide Open Spaces in Marion. That far one over there. Can you tell us a little bit about your pieces and your experience as an artist and how you got where you are?
Sure. I guess I started taking pictures when I was like 8 years old with a Browning camera. And basically I aimed and shot. And I never thought much about it until maybe 10 years ago. This one reflects how I used to do things all the time. I always search for symmetry. And this was in Dartmouth. It's a cornfield in Dartmouth, and we were there, my wife and I, who's here tonight, Sue, for an arts and crafts show. And in the process of just being there, I saw this ball moving around the field, kids jumping on it and playing with it. And I, of course, saw the background, and I said, well, I've got to get a picture of that, but I don't want any people in it. I'm not anti-people, it just I wanted this. And finally I got the chance, and I didn't pose it. I tried to get it central, and it did a pretty good job, but I thought that it had a lot of symmetry, but on the other hand, it was quite different. You don't often see that, if ever. You see the corn, but you don't often see a big orange ball in the middle of it. So that's basically what I saw and what I enjoyed seeing. And basically I take pictures that I think I like. And I like this one here was one of my first experiments, and I'm still experimenting on what they call long exposure photography. And this one, for most photographs in the daytime, of course, the shutter speed is extremely fast. This at night, or not night, but getting close to it, the shutter speed had to be a little slower to get enough light in to get a good picture. And also what it does, since the shutter speed is slower, the water is moving during it. But what the long exposure can do, if you get a good exposure, is flatten it out and make it look almost, I don't know how to describe it, but a little bit mysterious. That it has a little bit more to it than just a picture of water. And this was Marion appeared there, and I kind of focused on, believe it or not real smart, I guess, the ducks. I don't know if you can see those two specks in there. You have to, when you take a long exposure, you have to focus on something that doesn't move. So that's what resulted in it. I was pretty happy with that. So, do you have any other?
So I was going to say, yeah, it seems like the work that you choose, or what we've observed here, is that you're seeing scenes that people would normally pass by, or it would be a casual observation. But what you're doing is you're helping the viewer focus in on something and really kind of experience the moment along with you. When you're looking at things to shoot, do you let the scene come to you, or do you actively go out and hunt the scenes that you're trying to capture?
Yeah, good question. Sometimes I'm looking for something, but mostly I see it then and there. I'm not looking for it. This I was looking for because I was practicing. This one I was not looking for at all. I never expected even to see a cornfield in Dartmouth. I'm a city boy, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. It's a little bit of both. Mostly I am a reactive person. I see something, I frame it, I try to make a nice composition that's not too obvious, but on the other hand, there's rules of composition that happen regardless of how you feel about it. It's the way human beings see. But I'm usually looking for something like, I think most photographers, I'm not at all, and most artists, is some other way to show something that's familiar. And yeah, I think that's accurate.
Beautiful. I love the way that you've pretty much worked with. And that sound means that we're up for our 5 minutes. So I do want to thank you for coming up. Real quick, do you have any upcoming events or upcoming shows that you might want to talk about?
We are going to be doing something at the Marion Art Center in, I believe it's July. It's their outdoor, what's it called? Art in the Park at Marion, of course, Massachusetts, not far from here. So we'll be doing that. We're doing a number of different shows that are basically art shows, like craft shows as well. but for a showing, the Marion part in the park is something that we're looking forward to.
Wonderful, great. Well, everyone, thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it. People don't usually invite me to anything.
We were happy to have you. So everyone say thank you.
Our next artist is Alyssa Rivet from Dartmouth. Alyssa has 2 pieces, Event Horizon, 30 by 46 inches, koi fish swimming on the outskirts of a black hole, and then Eternal Love, 16 by 20 inches, a colorful explosion of golden emotion.
Hello.
All right, if everybody can welcome Alyssa. Now, Alyssa, you have 2 pieces here. Our first one here is this Event Horizon with the koi fish, and then you have Eternal Love. And those are for sale, $350 for this one here, and then $150 for the smaller one. Let's hear a little bit about you, your journey as an artist, and talk about these paintings some.
Yeah, I grew up in New Bedford and Dartmouth. I always loved painting my entire life. I also love singing and dancing, so I tend to incorporate all of those things that I love into my work and into my creative process. So usually when I'm painting, I'm dancing or singing, doing all 3, basically just flowing into everything I do. So the majority of my work is very expressive and flowy and colorful. So that's what I did here. So this piece, Eternal Love, I painted that recently after visiting one of my friends who lives kind of far away. And I felt that no matter how far these people are that I meet that are far away from me, that we'll always have a forever bond with each other. So yeah, I painted that after seeing my friend. And then this one, the koi fish around the black hole. So I wanted to depict how it feels basically to be on the outskirts of chaos, or always in chaos, but finding the peace within that chaos, as the koi fish do in the water, forever flowing around each other.
So you mentioned that you do a lot of singing and dancing and movement, and you can see a lot of movement in these pieces, and I think that's really great. You also choose very vibrant, bright colors with your work here. I'm seeing, is it metallic gold on that?
Yeah, a lot of my favorite pieces that I make, I end up always adding gold to. I'm not sure why. I guess it just feels complete with the gold. Makes it feel fancy.
It offers a really good contrast against the other colors that you have going on. As far as your process of creation here, so you dance and you sing when you create your pieces here, but where do you glean your information from, your inspiration rather?
Oh yeah, so my inspiration, I would say it comes from nature and animals and just color in general. Yeah, I tend to go for like bright and colorful things all the time. It just makes me really happy. And also my spirituality plays a lot into the paintings that I do. So just things that I believe in. And yeah, stuff like that.
Awesome. And I believe that we were told that this one actually is a blacklight reactive painting?
Yeah, that one's blacklight reactive. And I'm actually going to be selling a lot of my work at like raves and festivals. So a lot of my future work are going to be blacklight reactive and like fun, dancey stuff.
Well, we actually do have blacklight here, so would you like to show the crowd a little bit of what we're going to be doing?
Yeah.
Cool.
Even more. No, almost no spotlight. Yes.
And Can you talk about it?
Yeah, the blacklight paint is amazing. I love it, but it needs a lot of coats of paint. So, yeah, that's like about 700 layers of, of blacklight paint, but it's really fun. It just feels completed when I add the blacklight paint over top. So I'll start with painting everything basically in white first, and then going over it with a million layers of blacklight paint to give it this iridescent, ethereal look. And yeah, it's really fun.
When you're working with the blacklight paint, is this something where you have to kind of keep switching back and forth with the blacklight on and off, or something where you just paint and then hope it works out?
Yeah, so I definitely do the underpainting and then go over it and basically what I think I know it's going to look like, and then I'll put the blacklight on and then see what it looks like in the blacklight, and then see what I need to do to touch it up to, you know, really make it pop.
And so why did you use the blacklight paint? I guess there's another reason. This is a very interesting thing, but you only would know it if you actually had a blacklight or something to make the colors pop.
Yeah, I guess the blacklight for sure is the like the time and place. So the rave community spent a lot of time with the ravers, and a lot of their backgrounds and their lighting is blacklights. So I could sell my work at that sort of situation.
Awesome, very cool. And I think now would be a good time to open it up for questions. If there's anybody from the crowd that has questions about the work, I can see some people back there. Oh, and that is our time, so Alyssa, you'll be able to do the question, and then you can go ahead and tell us if you have any upcoming events.
I was just curious, when you hang it or when you have it hanging, do you need to have a black light with it all the time, or is that just something you could bring out to surprise?
Yeah, it's either or. You can do it first and then have a surprise afterwards, which is most of the time what I like to do. And then I just go back and forth with seeing it in the dark with the black light, and then seeing it. I want it to be a cohesive and beautiful painting either way, whether it be in natural lighting or in the dark in the black light. So yeah.
Awesome, great. Thank you for answering the question. And do we have any upcoming events or any kind of shows that you want to talk about before you head off stage?
Yes, if you guys can make it, we have open studios at Hatch Street this weekend. Yeah, my studio is 214 if anyone wants to come by. I'll be there in the morning, probably tomorrow and Sunday.
Awesome. And I
Thank
assume if these pieces don't sell tonight, that you'll probably have them there as well.
Yes, all my pieces will be there at my studio.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for having Alyssa.
Thank you.
And there is a little bit of a transition time as I take the artwork and switch it off. So, Scott, if you could introduce the next.
Our next artist is Chelsea Jewitt from North Attleboro. Chelsea has two pieces. Neon Circus, 3 foot 10 inches by 3 feet 4.5 inches. It's a large flat wooden cutout of a circus balanced on a pedestal. And her other piece is Vortex, 26 by 24 inches, acrylic paint on a wood board, and the image is a copper and brown deer.
All right. Everyone, welcome Chelsea, please. Welcome, Chelsea. You have some really great pieces here. They're super bright, vibrant, and really intricate. Let's hear a little bit about you. What's your process, and who are you as an artist? And then you can tell us about these pieces.
So I've been doing art professionally since 2018. In 2021, I started doing art at some music events, specifically like EDM events in Providence, and that's what both of these pieces are from. So they are both based on themes for the events, and they were created as kind of art installations. So my big elephant over here was done for a circus event. Elephants are also my favorite animals, so I took the circus theme and said, okay, I'll make it my own. The detailing and patterning on it is all inspired by mandalas, which are another art style that I do a lot of. And yeah, I do a lot of dot art as well, which is why you can see dots in both of these pieces. Yeah, so that was a really interesting piece to do for a music event. This one was done for an event that was based on time travel. And so I said, okay, what does the flow of time look like to me? And so that's what the movement of kind of the galaxy piece is looking like. And since it was time travel, I wanted it to be a little bit steampunky, I guess, with the gear and kind of playing around with that concept. Both of these I continued to work on after those events, so these are evolving pieces that continued changing for months afterwards. This one I worked on for almost 2 years after the event. I actually brought it to several other events and like live painted with crazy lights and people dancing around and, you know, people bumping into you and whatnot. It's a little challenging to do those fine line details at those type of events, but I kind of enjoy that organized chaos. So yeah.
So can you talk to us a little bit about, it seems that there's a pattern in the center of this piece here, and it's a repeated pattern, but can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so that is a flower of life pattern. It's part of sacred geometry, which there's a lot of different shapes that you can find. This is done just using a compass, and you kind of repeat the pattern over and over by kind of putting your compass down on each point where the circles interlock and cross. I find these designs really like grounding and centering, and since art is very meditative, they're really good for that.
So do you feel like your work tends to lean a little bit more on the spiritual side, or
A
do you
bit.
think that you draw inspiration from those things?
Yeah, my artwork definitely has a lot of spiritual elements. I have a lot of pieces that involve goddess imagery and a lot of like natural patterns, because I'm very inspired by the organic movements within nature, which is why if you look on the elephant, there's a lot of kind of leaves and flowers mixed into those designs.
This one is, and I know you guys can't see it from where you're at, but where I'm looking at these from an angle, you can see that each dot has a little bit of extra texture to it. Like the paint has actually been pilled up a little bit, especially the one over there. It looks like every little dot is its own separate rivet or stud. In this one, you know, there's no repeated patterns on here at all. It seems like everything is a different, unique shape. When you're making things like this, do you go in it with a specific plan, or does it come out organically?
This one, I had a general idea that I wanted to kind of show the ear of the elephant. I wanted to have the traditional kind of blanket shape on its back. But the rest of it, I just freehanded. I was just having fun listening to some good music and just sitting with it for hours on end, slowly working each detail and going back in with like the white paint over it. And what's fun about these two pieces is they are also blacklight reactive, and they also glow in the dark. And one of the reasons that I do that with my art is because I like the idea that the art will look very different in multiple types of lighting. It feels kind of whimsical and kind of magical to me when you can do that.
So you have these pretty much set up so that you can view them either regular or under a
Right.
black light. So let's take a look under a black light. And Chelsea, there's one prompt behind that easel if you want to grab that.
Go to
piece here.
blacklight mode. Thank you.
Ah, gorgeous. And I think if you back up from that one, you'll see it better. If you look at there we go. You can know, you know that it's a good piece when the whole crowd goes, ooh. Now, these are really gorgeous, and the colors, you know, you don't really lose much in the colors. You actually get more vibrant shapes. And I know with a lot of the blacklight paints, and that's our time, but it seems like with a lot of these blacklight paints, you end up losing some of those details, but you've managed to make that really work for you. And I think that even this one here, this isn't just a blacklight one. This one also has, you know, say it.
Yeah, so if you take the lights off of them, they glow in the dark. Yeah.
Great.
So any light that you have under, it's going to look kind of different, and yeah, I like a little bit of whimsy and a little bit of magic in my life, and that's a way that I can infuse my art with it.
Wonderful. And that was our timer, so we're out of time, unfortunately. So I think we might have time for one quick question. You can tell us if you have any events. So if anybody has a question, put your hands up now. And Chelsea, you want to talk about your events while we're waiting for that?
So this coming Saturday, I'm going to be vending at the the Lions Club Paws of Comfort fundraising vendor fair in Attleboro, Mass. And then in July, I'm going to be participating in a multi-artist gallery show here in New Bedford at Amy Carroll's studio.
Beautiful, great, thank you so much. And do we have any questions, or are we? All right, I think we're good. And you guys will be able to talk to the artists afterwards during our afterglow. So Chelsea, thank you so much for coming on out.
Our next artist is Meegs Lund from Bedford. Meegs has two pieces, See to Her Calling. It's a custom size with framing available. Description at her bequest, they carefully forged natural beauty, specially arranged and intentionally documented in honor of her passing. Second piece is Notably, Alternative Views or Scholastic. Also custom size with framing available. Description, with reverence, our remembrance shall never truly fade.
I like your setup. Welcome, Meegs. So, your two pieces here we have on the projector screen behind us. So, the first one that we're taking a look at here is going to be the See to Her Calling. And I believe you were saying about making prints for your work, or having that. So,
Custom sizing prints are available. Come talk to me afterwards. I prefer to show my art in person in my studio. That is where I feel most comfortable sharing all the nitty-gritty details. But I will talk more about that.
go ahead. Yeah.
So this first one is a photograph that I took on April 8th, the day of the eclipse. And it was set up by way of myself foraging around my grandmother's garden and yard. And it was made in remembrance for my baby Ruth, who is a bunny and passed away about a week earlier. So the next photograph is a picture of the last night that my bunny was in the studio with me. So you can see I was Trans Day of Visibility, March 31st, and I did a little ground to gallery exhibition where I invited everyone from the New Bedford area that was personally connected to me and opened it up to the larger queer community, and asked them to select some of my art from the floor and then help me name it and put it onto the gallery wall that I have in my space. So as part of the Trans Day Visibility, I got to feel chosen. And then later on, that second photo, I felt like I was then passing that on, choosing my bunny.
Beautiful. So, can you tell us a bit more about what's going on in so that's your studio, that's your actual workspace where you create your artwork.
Correct.
And you would bring your bunny there with you, so you guys would like hang out and do your creations there?
Yeah, a week or two beforehand as well, it was a National Goofball Day. So I brought her in. That was one of the first times she had been in, and invited some of the other artists at Kilburn Mill to come hang out as a goofball with me and my bunny. So I got a lot of really good memories from her there, and it just keeps going even though she's not here.
So with your artwork, when you're finding your inspiration, do you react to things that are happening in your life, or do you have a set plan when you create a piece, or do you kind of just try to use it almost like a journal or a way of meditation, reflection, therapy? Sorry, that was a big
It's a
question.
lot of things. I definitely have a documentarian style lineage. I am distantly related to the Lund's Corner lineage over there. So I have this mindset of every moment that I'm in deserves to be documented in some way. And so sometimes that comes through photography, sometimes that comes through writing or poetry, and then sometimes that comes through in painting and other mediums. But most recently I've been very attracted to photography and bringing forward my vision in that way.
So we are looking today at two pieces of photography, but what other kinds of work do you do? I mean, you were talking about paintings, but with that kind of stuff, what do you get drawn towards? Are you doing abstract, realism?
The last time I presented at New Bedford Fine Arts Club, I showed some ink work, and this would be the pen that I use mostly. It's a Japanese Muji ink pen, and it's a very playful, iterative process. So I come from a background of architecture studies, so I go in first with a structural mindset, and then I come back with the details and the layers and all the different textures that I could put in there. But it is generally more on the abstract side, yes.
Beautiful, cool. So when you're doing your photography, you said you do prints for them mostly. I find that there's a lot of impact that comes with the naming of a piece and the story behind the piece. Do you usually have your work up and wait for people to respond to it before you give them the whole story? Do you feel like the title is a big driving force with that? How do you feed people the description and the background to it?
It very much highly depends on who's my audience and what I'm trying to share in that moment. So for these two pieces, I was definitely trying to share my own personal connection with my baby Ruth. And so that's where the naming of these two pieces comes from. The reason I chose for the ground to gallery exhibition for my audience to choose the naming titles was because I wanted it to be more of a collective effort. And that goes back to the naming of my studio as the Novice Studio Collective, where I'm trying to bring forth my grandmother's maiden lineage, the novice side, and then the studio becomes my portal, my art space, my workspace, towards a collective future. So all of the work that goes on inside of the studio is ideally for that collective vision.
Beautiful, that's great.
It's time. I'm sorry, we had a timer malfunction, so I have to verbally tell you it's time.
Okay, so beep, 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 the timer's going. So I think we'll open it up for questions, and then you can tell us if you have any additional events coming up or anything like that. So if we have any questions from the crowd right now, that would be great. All right, no additional questions. I think I covered along with you. So thank you so much for coming up, and any upcoming events?
Yes, one thing. We'll be exhibiting at Kinfolk next month, but if anybody else wants to exhibit, they're taking submissions up until May 29th, and that's at Gallery X, just right up the street.
Wonderful, great. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank Meegs for coming.
Our next artist is Madeline Peach from New Bedford. Madeline has two pieces. This body, 12 by 16 inches. A close-up of a woman's torso with hands grabbing and pulling at skin, and comfort zone, 9 by 12 inches. Woman resting in someone's lap, looking at phone.
Hey. All the way up. Is it working?
Is
It's
that
working.
on?
No, it's working, yeah.
Okay.
Welcome Peach, everybody. Welcome Peach. Madeline Peach. Beautiful work. Introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and then you can start talking about your pieces.
Okay. I'm Madeline Peach. I'm based here in New Bedford, Mass. I just graduated from UMass Dartmouth right before the Star Store was ripped away. Over the last year or two, the main objective in my work has been thinking about identity and intimacy as a queer person, and trying to create representation that felt authentic to me and a lot of other queer people. I have a hard time talking about myself. I don't know.
No worries. So you said you were at UMass and you were at the Star Store for a while. A lot of your work is based LGBTQ driven pieces. So how do we relate those to the two pieces that we have up here today? So with this piece here, you have, the title of this one is it?
The title of that one is Stuck in This Body.
Mm-hmm.
That's an older piece. I was really thinking about, I guess, my relationship with myself and my body, and feeling like I didn't want to take up space. So I guess that's working with space and the painterly way and also in a more abstract way. And then this one is a self-portrait of me that's actually a photo that my girlfriend took, so I'm thinking a lot about sorry.
That's okay. So you have these really private moments that are coming out, and these really, in-depth kind of personal and emotional things that are coming out in your artwork. And you can see that, the care that was taken in every brushstroke. And one of my favorite things about your work is that you do let a lot of the background colors show through as well. And almost places where the artwork, you can see a piece of flesh coming down and then it stops and it breaks to the background. And is that intentional? Is that something that you put into your work for a certain meaning or a certain impact or effect?
Yeah, I try to be really careful and meticulous where I'm letting that underpainting show through to stress certain areas or to use it as a sort of highlight. And I think, like, especially in this piece here, Comfort Zone, it almost evokes like a feeling of a memory. So I'm really trying to work through it being a real intimate moment that I've had, a memory rather than a representational image almost. So yeah, the underpainting as like a technical aspect of my work has been something I've really been working through these last couple of years, and I'm trying to be more and more aware of it and more intentional with it.
Beautiful. I feel like pieces like this, where you do have a very personal, intimate connection with the artwork, is a lot like when you're listening to a song. The artist who creates the song might come up with the song for their own meanings or reasons, but it's going to connect to a lot of people and a lot of viewers. What you're saying about the piece where you're concerned with taking space is a problem that a lot of people end up having to struggle with. And then the feeling of having that close, intimate moment where you're doing the self-portrait, that same idea, everybody can relate to that closeness that they feel with a person and having a safe space in that. When you're creating your work, do you do it because you want to share those pieces of yourself, or because you want people to respond in their own way to their own relations with the work and what that might bring up for them?
That's a really good question. I think it differs piece to piece. Like I think the smaller one, I was really looking for more of a response and to see how this piece would read with other people. Whereas like this one, I felt like I had a more concrete idea that I wanted to get across and something that I wanted to work out on the canvas. So I think I start every piece wanting something out of it for myself, and then it kind of develops as I go of what my goal is going to be with it.
And I asked this question of some others before, but in the naming and the title of the piece, do you have that before you create your artwork, or is that something that comes afterwards where you're trying to ascribe a meaning to it?
Definitely after. I'm horrible with words. This is the most painful thing for me right now, to sit here and talk about my work. So it's definitely something I do after, and I try to be kind of lighthearted with it and try to not take it too seriously. And
That's beautiful stuff. So with the rest of the work that you do and your journey as an artist, right now you said you're in school, but where do you want to go with your work? What's your main goal as an artist as you go forward with your career?
I'd really love to make these nice, intimate paintings for other people and to do more commissioned work and have the opportunity to translate other people's memories into, bright little paintings. I really would like to do more commissions and, should exhibit a little bit more. Playing it by ear.
I think that that's a beautiful idea, being able to offer those small, intimate moments or doing commissions that are specifically geared towards something that would be very personal to a person. Beep, 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 beep. So it's our time. Madeline, do you have any other events that are coming up, things that you want to talk about, and then we'll open it up for questions.
I will also be in the Kinfolk exhibition at Gallery X next month during Pride, and I will be vending at the Whaling City Festival this summer, hopefully again.
Wonderful, great. And any questions from the crowd about these pieces? Oh, we got some right over here.
Beautiful work.
We got the mic here.
Oh, sorry. Beautiful work. What is your medium?
My oil.
Oil. Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you so much. And we're going to switch over to the next artist. Thank you so much, and everyone, thank you for coming.
Artist is Isiah Botelho from New Bedford. Two pieces. The first is red, 9 by 12 inches, a full-color illustration of a red buoy shore. And the second one is Mr. Wick, 6 by 6 inches, a colored pencil illustration of John Wick, Keanu Reeves, done as a color study exercise.
All right. Welcome, Isiah, or welcome back, Isiah. You've shown. How many times have you been up on stage talking with us?
This is my third time.
Third time. Are you getting too comfortable?
No.
Isiah, you're making tons of work all the time, and there are all these really big, bright. Well, they're tiny, but they're very bright, vibrant colored pencil pieces. And you definitely have mastery over your craft. Can you tell us about the two pieces you brought on today?
So the two pieces I brought, one is newer, one is older. The newer one is the buoy. I've been doing a lot more kind of landscape work and kind of work about the area. And the older one I picked because it has almost an identical palette. I used most of the same colors. Actively, they were the same pencils. And I just thought they would be interesting to put next to each other. I also went a little bit bigger than I usually do. I like working 6 by 6 because I like finishing things in 1 to 2 sittings. 2 to 4 hours is about how much my ADHD can take on something. Yeah.
So it seems like you chose them because the color palettes match, you know. I know that we've seen some of your work in the past, and I can see one today, but it seems like you do a lot that has to do with pop culture, movies, or media. Can you tell us why you gravitate towards those things, and how the buoy is different from that?
So the buoy is just something that's kind of more personal in that, like it's something from the area. It's something that's kind of in the culture of the area. Like last time I came, I also did one that was kind of like an ode to the city that was more abstract. So I just kind of wanted to continue in that vein. I thought it was interesting. I've been having fun doing them. I am someone who likes to do structural work, usually in anatomy, but I've been doing a lot more like actual buildings and things like that, and I thought it would be interesting. I did use a reference, but I played with the perspective from the actual reference, so it's substantially different. I changed a lot of the like the proportions of how it's supposed to look, kind of just to make it feel me, add myself to it. Like all of my pieces, I don't use like the grid method or anything like that. I freehand everything because I like the idea that I can change whatever I want, and I can try to get as close to the original image, but add something a little different. So for the John Wick one, I have his head turned a little further than it actually was in the original reference. So there's more light that catches on his nose. I lessened the shadow on his eye so you can actually see his iris. Kind of small things like that that are like, this is my take on something rather than just a one-to-one copy, because otherwise that would be completely boring and just redundant almost. Even the reason I use colored pencils and stuff like that is because I like the texture of it. It feels different. It doesn't feel, I don't know.
And now, you've come on quite a bit, so I wanted to ask, what kind of colored pencil are you using? Do you have a specific medium that you gravitate towards besides just colored pencils in general, or a preferred brand or a preferred tool that you like to use with that?
I pretty much just use Prismacolors. I like to use the 72 count just because I think going any more than that, you have too many options. I like the idea that you have to improvise to get certain colors. So you have to work on the blending and the layering to get something really specific, as opposed to, I just have that color, I can just put it in, because it's not fun.
So with your subject matter, you know, we were talking a bit about how you had the stuff that's pop culture based and the ones that you're doing that are more personal. And I know as an artist, you're dealing a lot with how your work is received by your viewers and your potential clients and people who would buy the work. do you find that you have easier time getting people to accept pieces that are more pop culture or more personal?
So I've gotten contract work doing pop culture stuff, so that's pretty well received. Even on my TikTok, I mostly do pop culture stuff, other than like tutorials. But I think the reception is usually the fine arts community loves things that are kind of more personal. They are a story about the area or the person themselves. And then as far as like getting contract work and commissions, people really love the things that they know and understanding your take on it. So it's more about feeling how you feel about those things by proxy of the art, you know?
Nice. Now, what's next?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Ask me tomorrow, I might be able to answer it.
So when you come up with an idea, do you don't have it planned super far in advance? Do you feel like you choose your subject matters and what you're going to be creating next kind of on the fly, or when the inspiration strikes?
I generally do it on a whim. Sometimes I'm like, I want to draw something green today, and then I'll kind of be like, well, what's green? How can I do something green? Is there a character that I can associate with green? Is there someone who's like envious of something? I can play around with that idea. Or can I do like a forest thing? Maybe I can make the water and image a little bit more green. It's just kind of like, what do I want to play with? Sometimes I want to get an expression out, like someone who's really angry or someone who's incredibly happy, and then everything else kind of builds around whatever I want in that moment, whatever the whim is of the day.
I love the idea of using a challenge or making it a bit of a game for yourself as a way to motivate yourself to create. As an artist myself, like I'll get stuck and I'll be like, what am I gonna do? But sometimes giving myself these little drawing challenges or things like that is a really good way to break out of the mold. Because when I give myself those things, I always want to try to change it and see like how far can I push the goal of what I'm doing. And you do a lot of those same things, right?
Yeah, so almost everything that I do, there's a purpose behind why I wanted to do it initially, and it's always a challenge to improve, to teach myself something, to see whether or not I can do it. Like the lettering on this, I hand lettered it. I made myself like the little lines and then X's, and then tried to get it as close as the actual font as I could. I used a couple of different reds and oranges, and then the gel to make it look like it has that glowing neon effect that they tried to put off. And there's always like these small little interesting things that you can kind of throw in there.
Awesome. And I've also seen that you've been doing different things with your framing. How much do you feel like the presentation, the framing goes into the way the artwork is received?
I think the framing is somewhat important. A lot of people like to change the frame anyway because they want it to suit their living space. So I often just try to find a frame that works with the image in and of itself, and then if someone wants to change it later, they can. So I like to frame my 6x6s in shadow boxes just because I just like the way that looks. And then going slightly larger, I just kind of picked like a brown frame. Kind of feels a little bit more rustic to go with the actual image itself.
Do you see yourself going with more larger pieces in the future?
Potentially. I like I said, I like to work in either small chunks. So this one was done in about 3.5 hours over 2 days, just because I was incredibly busy with other stuff. And that one was done in 1 day in roughly the same amount of time, just because getting faces right is harder than getting a structure right, because it's all even. You can just eyeball where the thing would go in perspective. And, yeah.
Wonderful.
Beep, beep.
Beep, beep. Beep, beep means, is there any questions from the crowd? Do we have any? All right. Do you have any upcoming events or anything that you want to share with us before you head off?
Not currently. I'm working on some stuff, but I've been incredibly busy after I just came back from a vacation and doing some contract work that kind of, I haven't been able to do too much personal work.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing what you have next time. Everyone, thank Isiah.
Our next artist is Susan Meadows from Fair. It's 2 pieces. Morning Panorama. Oh, I'm sorry. Blaine, I'm so sorry. Thank you for catching that. I'm sorry. Next artist is Blaine Bacchiocchi. Blaine has 2 pieces. Fountain, 22 by 30 inches. non-objective abstract acrylic on gessoed arches paper, and Cliff 22 by 30 non-objective abstract acrylic and Sumi ink on gessoed arches paper.
I know it's bright up here. All right, welcome, Blaine.
Are we on? We are on.
We're on. We're on. We got you now. So beautiful work. Very vibrant, bright pieces. They even show up more vibrant in person than they do on the images. And the texture is absolutely breathtaking when we get close to them. But Blaine, can we hear a little bit about you as an artist, who you are, what you do, and why these pieces have made it to our stage today?
Well, that's the general idea, but so let's see. How much do we need to know? No. These are a few years old. I am an artist and art educator from this area. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to do like a little art teacher retreat up at Montserrat. And these were part of a series that were a product of part of that retreat. I was playing with how the paint works on surface. It's completely just from my subconscious. There was no real thought, like prior thought involved in any of this, really. I wanted to play with texture, I wanted to play with color, I wanted to play with size, shape, and direction of brushstroke. I wanted to play with, negative space. There's also negative space in this. Balancing flatness and space. I really enjoy doing those kinds of things in my work. And just like letting the materials be themselves on the surface that they're being put on. How many different facets of the material can we see in one piece? That's just acrylic paint. I mean, it's not my favorite thing to work with, but it does some pretty cool stuff, especially when you mix it with other things. So the black that you see here is Sumi ink, and there's different intensities of it. So I'll water it down, or I'll put it on just straight from the bottle, which is kind of fun too. I was using different size brushes, seeing how changing the shape of the brush changed the stroke and the texture that we were getting on the surface. This was also my first time working with gessoed paper. It was actually a suggestion by the retreat leader to work on gessoed paper, and I thought that was kind of an interesting take and a possibly cheaper alternative to building and stretching my own canvas. I think these are small. My work gets pretty large. You can see some big stuff this weekend if you come to Hatch Street. My studio is 212 over in the 90 building. We're also building some installations at the moment. It's going to be kind of fun. But yeah, I work in a lot of things, so this is just part of my non-objective side of my brain. Yes, that's I don't know what else to say right now.
So you had said that, with these pieces you were going at it from almost a technical and kind of practice aspect of it, where you were playing with things. After you completed the pieces, did you feel like they evoked any particular emotions or feelings, or that you could ascribe a meaning to them afterwards, or that you could pull something from them?
I mean, personally, I feel like the viewer does that work, and that's not really my job as the creator to tell the viewer how to feel about something. Yeah, sure, you can say that this is my inner emotive state coming out. What do they talk about? I'm not sure. The closest I've been able to get is trying to wrap up a school year. These were done in 2022, so that we were slightly post-COVID. It was a ridiculous school year, And a lot of the rest of that series was just kind of like, how do I tie this stuff back together again? Like, how do I, get my brain right? How do I make something that makes me happy? And I think I did that. So the piece that's not seen here, because we only get two, actually goes with this one. And so there is a uniting red line that goes with both of them, which I think is kind of interesting. So it's kind of like tying, separating, falling, however you want to see it, really. I don't like naming things. I actually didn't name these, a friend of mine did. Because, again, I don't feel like I should have to tell the viewer what to think about it. You're going to have your own experience with it that I won't have with it.
I think that's actually pretty interesting, and you were talking about allowing the viewers to have the interaction with the piece.
Mm-hmm.
And, your friend was the one that named him and clearly had with, cliff and fountain.
Yep.
Those are some pretty descriptive words. So they definitely took something from it. Did you?
I see it. I get where she was coming from. Like, I've got this big, bold, black line that does this really strong diagonal, but like not fully a diagonal on the frame. It's quite off. And it feels like you might be falling, or there's that feeling that cliff could be, that gets where she got that from. I see it more of like as a separation rather than a cliff, but we do have some falling motion here. And this one over here, we've got these other like strong diagonals kind of going off to the upper left. And so I can see how maybe there's like a squirting or like watery motion that she was getting from that. That's as close as I got, I think.
Wonderful. So you had mentioned that there's going to be an event this weekend at
Yes.
Studios.
So most people think about Hatch Street as the 88 building. My studio is in the 90 building. So make sure that if you do come, you visit all of us. That'd be great. My friend and myself, with a couple others, we are actually currently in the process of setting up an installation space in the area that connects the two. We call it the tunnel. It's going to be like a real chill zone. We're using lighting, furniture, decoration as like a gathering space kind of installation. I spent all day today moving things. And hopefully they're there right now while I'm here talking to you guys, doing some of the more heavy lifting.
Oh, beep beep.
Oh, we'll also have tea. There'll be a tea service as well, so.
Very nice.
Art and tea.
So we got ahead with the beep beep thing, and so you already told us about the event, but since we are out of time, I just want to say to everybody else here, your work varies greatly in its style. So they're not just gonna, if they come to visit you, they won't just see abstract work. They're gonna see what?
I mean, there's a lot of my work is abstract. Sometimes I describe myself as like 16 artists in a trench coat. They'll see a lot of abstract work. There's actually a bunch of my work from college that's going to be there that hasn't been seen in like 15 years. It's kind of rad. They're like large tools. I also did like a small little installation space. I also have some fiber art. I make custom teddy bears as well. And I have a massive collection of plein air landscape watercolor paintings that span from like 2008 till this year that are all for sale.
Great, thank you so much for coming on out. And at the end, during the afterglow, I do encourage everybody here to come and take a look at all the work up close. There's just some things that you won't see. All right, so catch us at the afterglow.
Our next artist is Susan Meadows from Fairhaven. Susan has 2 pieces. Morning Panorama, 16 by 40 inches framed, a panoramic view of dawn and colorful clouds claiming the space over Buzzards Bay. And Red Cloud over Bay, 11 by 14 inches framed, red cloud space over Buzzards Bay, reflecting the cloud.
we could all welcome Susan. You have some really vibrant, beautiful pieces here.
Thank you.
Oh. How's it going now?
How's that?
Yeah, let me see. Okay, yep, there we go.
This is on, okay.
Yeah, that one's on.
Yeah, I do a lot of my work, almost all of it actually, at dawn in Fairhaven. And I see the sunrise, and I see before the sun rises, which is really important because the moisture in the air gives you a totally different color stuff than you might see later on in the day. And these pieces are showing you what colors are actually there. It's really interesting to me that people don't see, they see an ordinary sunrise as something that just, you know, the yellow sun comes up out of the ground. But it's not that way. This piece, the panorama, it's basically exploding out the sun. The clouds are billowing around, and the colors that the sun occasions from the air and the water are obvious. When you look around, it's amazing. It's just amazing. So I take a picture. In this case, I took a long picture. The red cloud over Buzzards Bay, over Bay. This was interesting because the cloud itself started off as a white and gray, and it was basically no color at all beyond that. And then as I was walking, I walked my dog, as I was walking down the beach, the colors started to emerge, and then you saw a tinge of pink, and then you saw an edge of pink, and then you saw red emerging. And I got it when it was in full bloom. And 5 minutes after this, it was back to gray. Somebody coming to the scene would be like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's interesting. I've made it a practice of walking the beach at dawn. It gives me a great feeling of well-being since we moved to Fairhaven. And that was just a couple of years ago. I grew up in Massachusetts, so it's my home. And it's nice to be home again. I didn't expect this though. It's nice I have a full career that I've ended, and now I'm a starving artist.
So, I mean, with these pieces here, you've definitely captured the vastness of the sky, how large things truly are, especially this one here with the red-pink cloud. And beyond showing the absolute sheer scale of what you're looking at with that cloud, how it feels like it's bearing down on the building in the distance, you've also captured a moment, something that I think, you know, really only artists can do. Being able to capture a split second and then sharing that moment with other people. Even if it won't compare exactly to being there, the facsimile is something that can really bring people into that and bring them the same joy or the same feelings that you have.
Yes.
So what are you trying to evoke when you want to show these? What's your goal for the viewer when you take these beautiful sunrises?
I want people to see what they wouldn't see otherwise. That's it. I paint a lot too. I have a background in painting. I went to RISD for a summer when I was 14, which was great. But they, painters, I'm not used to doing art without splotches of paint on my clothes. Photography is clean, which is nice. And you can play with the light and colors in ways that you can't with paint. It's a different sort of thing. You have to practice it, just like you would with paint.
So with the colors that you've achieved here, how much of it is done there at the moment with the camera, and how much of it is it done as post-work, where you're editing your photos and things like that?
That's a good question. A lot of people assume, for example, that this is photoshopped. It isn't. It is the colors that were actually there. I just moved the camera to capture them. I did tone up the colors so that they're maybe brighter than they were, but not really. It didn't take much because it was already breathtaking. For the red cloud, same thing. It took very little editing. A lot of the editing I do is to do, cropping out things, or cropping out things.
I mean, the colors are absolutely breathtaking, and I do love the way that you frame these too, where you have that the white break before you get to this bright piece of artwork. I feel like a lot of people don't take the time to understand that the frame does really impact the piece a lot of the times, especially when you have these brighter pieces that you have going on. How much time do you spend when you're dealing with the frame or the composition as far as moving and cropping things?
Well, composing is a whole skill in itself. I spend a lot of time, probably a couple of hours after I come back from the beach, looking over what I've taken and seeing where it works and where it doesn't. I throw away a lot. It's really nice in this age of digital photography to be able to just toss things. I remember when it was all film.
Yeah, film, you get 24 shots and then you're done.
Yeah.
So you mentioned digital. What are you shooting on?
It's a really great camera, but I do it intuitively. It has a lot of settings, and I just let it go automatically.
Nice.
And it has a really strong zoom feature.
Is it a Canon, a Nikon, or a certain brand?
Samsung.
Samsung. Oh, very nice.
Yeah. So I'm really happy with the tools I have, and I'm really happy to live in Fairhaven. That I have this array of color and light before me in the morning.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the area, the Fairhaven area, Scott's Neck area, you can go to either side of that peninsula and you can catch the sunrise or the sunset,
yes,
depending on where you are.
Beep, beep.
Oh, beep, beep. All right, so that is our time. So, any questions from the crowd? Anybody? All right. So, do you have any upcoming events or anything that you want to tell us about before we say goodbye?
Yeah, my husband mentioned Arts in the Park with Marion Arts Center. We also have, at the end of June, Homecoming Day for Fairhaven, and we'll be there with all of our photography and showing it.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you so very much for coming out. Let's go talk this stuff.
And it's now time for our featured artist, Mandy Fraser from New Bedford, and Mandy has 4 pieces she'll be talking about. November, 5 by 3 feet, 2 seated androgynous figures romantically embraced in an empty dark space, seemingly the only 2 people to exist. Love Writhing, 3 by 2 feet, the colorful figure of a woman laying on her side floats above the word love, painted in the style of graffiti on a black background. Secret City Whale, Shelter, 4 by 4 feet, the humpback whale is fabricated out of words written in graffiti style. The words are people's answers to the question, what do you love about New Bedford? And finally, B-Girl, 4 by 3 feet, a female presenting breakdancer holds herself upside down on one arm. The dancer is fabricated out of blue, yellow, orange, and pink words in the style of graffiti.
All right, everybody, welcome Mandy. Mandy Fraser.
Hello, everybody.
I love these. These are great. Your work is so interesting when you have the words making up these figures and the colors. Everything comes together where you're really playing with the line, the shape, the texture. Talk about what we got here.
Sure. So this is something I've done the last couple of years. I always like the look of sort of like a knockout silhouette. Like if you make for instance, if you make a clipping mask in Illustrator, my Adobe people know what I'm talking about. I love when stuff goes out of the lines and then it gets cut. It has this really neat effect. So I thought, what if I could do that with paint? And I was at, it was during a Third Eye Youth Empowerment event where I did some live painting on the free wall on Christian Ave in Dean Street. And the first one I did was a big whale, and I made it out of words about New Bedford.
And I think we have that one on the projector right now. It's the large
yeah.
whale.
That's not, yeah, this is a different one. This was part of the DATMA shelter exhibit last summer. And that I did, I started live painting at a New Bedford economic development event. And this whale is also made out of words about New Bedford, people's answers to the question, what do you love about New Bedford?
Awesome. So with all of the pieces that you have here that use the words, are you specifically sourcing the words, or are you coming up with some of them yourself?
Most often, yes. When I started doing this, I've actually done a lot of live painting at events and a lot of Third Eye events where I started. And you know, the question was, what do you love about New Bedford? This one is all words about hip hop. So what I will do is put up a whiteboard with a prompt and some sticky notes for people to answer whatever the prompt is. And I will take those answers and put them into the painting live.
Nice. And you were mentioning how some of the words are cut off. They get to the edge and they get cut off. Do you find yourself positioning words intentionally so that the viewers can kind of try to figure out what the word was or interact with the piece where they, you know, oh, this might say something like this, but it could be other things?
Yeah, they are all intentionally placed. It's mostly for aesthetics. I make sure I get all the important words in. You know, like this, for instance, is the 5 pillars of hip hop, which are, you know, is MCing, DJing, breaking, graffiti, and knowledge. So I, you know, wanted to make sure those were all highlighted, and then, you know, the rest was sort of filled in.
Awesome. And the color choices too. You know, you have a full rainbow on the whale, and then over here you have pretty much the same scent, minus maybe like a bright red, but why are you going with specific colors? Why the blue at the feet and the pink at the bottom?
This was kind of random. I just thought they looked nice together, to be honest. Yeah, this one I did for New Bedford Pride a couple years ago.
Nice.
So I did did a rainbow, and it's all words about celebrating Pride.
Beautiful, very nice. So we have those pieces, and then you also have a slideshow here. And Mandy's going to have more than 5 minutes to talk about herself because she's got a lot of really cool things going on. But can you see the projector from where you are?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so speaking of New Bedford Pride, I did this one for New Bedford Pride last year. It's 12 feet by 8 feet, and I don't know if anybody was there, but it was a photo backdrop at the event. So this, I thought it was big and bold.
It is all of those things.
And so this is down on the state pier, and this is an example of my whales, which I call Secret City whales. By the way, Secret City is a shout out to the sort of undiscovered, or the sort of immense amount of talent that is in this city people just don't know about. So it's sort of a shout out to that. So these are down on the state pier, and these are all words about New Bedford as well. And this is the other side. This is the north side of the parking lot on the state pier. And then this is an in-process one. You can see a little more details of the actual words, like galleries and you know, arts and culture and restaurants, stuff like that.
So as we're going with these, how long does an individual piece like this take? And it's not like you can take that home to the studio. You have to be out there painting that on location.
These each, maybe about a day each around there. You know, all together with the prep and the doing the outlines and then the fill-in. They maybe were like a day each. This was the hottest project I've ever done in my life. In the parking lot in July in the heat. The paint was drying on the brush before it even got to the Jersey barrier. It was pretty wild.
Jeez.
So this is a little time lapse of during that process last summer.
Oh, yeah. It's not working all of a sudden. It worked home. It worked earlier today.
Well, if we can't get it working, is there a place that people can find the time lapse? Is that going to be one of the
Yeah, it's on my Instagram page, actually. Yeah.
And that's actually a good plug for me to say. If you guys look at your brochures, they have the links to everybody's social media, so yours will be on there, and people can find that if we can't get this one up and running. Sometimes technical issues. So when you were recording the time lapse, how long is the time lapse actually for? Like, how long were you recording?
A couple hours anyway, I think.
A couple
Something
hours.
like that comes down to 30 seconds or whatever it is. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's almost like the difference between what people think art takes and, oh, here we go. It's like how long people think artwork takes to make, and then how long it actually takes is the hours or days.
See, so you can see I'm intentionally going out of the lines here. I have like a chalk and a lightly painted line where my outline's going to be, and then at the end I go over it in black and knock out the whole shape.
Now, are you doing that all with brushes, or are you using paint-filled markers, or what's your method there for the material?
This is all brushes. The bigger stuff is usually all brushes and latex paint. The canvas stuff is usually acrylic, latex, and paint markers. I use a lot of paint markers in this style of my work.
Great. So when you choose your different types of like paint markers, and the difference between a latex paint or an acrylic paint, what makes your decisions for those? Is it just the color? Is it how it's gonna lay on there?
It is, yeah. So with my more figurative painting, which was sort of the beginning of the slideshow, I use oil or acrylic because I find, especially oil paint, it's like sculpting almost. This one, yeah, this is a good example of a figure I've done, and I'm really inspired by graffiti artists as well. I'm really inspired by movement, the human body and movement and music and dancers and athletes. I love people doing amazing things with their bodies. And this is two people embracing. They're supposed to be androgynous on purpose. It's supposed to be about the energy of it, and exaggerated negative space is part of it. This one's oil. It's about 5 feet, like 3 feet.
Oh, so that's a big one then. Are those pieces available by chance?
Yep, all available.
Awesome. So these big pieces here, with the figurative work, a lot of them, well, all of them that you were seeing here today have that black background, right? That kind of disappearing into the darkness thing where it does accentuate the figures. But your choice for using the black background is something that a lot of people have used classically in a lot of paintings over time. What is your decision for doing that? Why choose the black background or go for that deeper, darker look?
Good question. I guess, so the subject of it is really the focus. It doesn't, whatever's in the background doesn't take away. But yeah, I almost always use black, you're right. And this is an older, painting. This was just after college painting, so I've been doing the black background thing for kind of a while now. But yeah, I think it's to sort of accentuate the subject matter.
You can really see in this one here where we have the two different styles playing together, the range of your skill and the range of the different styles that you're able to bring to the table here. When you're doing different pieces, do you feel like you're drawn to one more than the other? And I know there's a lot that has to do with graffiti that's based in the culture of the area and just being in New Bedford or being inspired by the music and that kind of camaraderie and community. Where do you feel you land with your artwork versus your personal response to it?
So sorry, say it again?
Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit. You have different styles, and it seems like they're inspired by different things. Do you have a favorite that you lean towards more than another?
Oh, geez. I guess I love them all the same. They're all your babies, right? You love all your babies the same. Yeah, it's just, I guess it depends. It's just random how inspiration hits you. Sometimes if I go to some dance show or something, I'm like, wow, I gotta paint some bodies, right? And then other times I'm like, oh, I get an idea for silhouette knockout, and I'm like, let's come up with words of what that thing is. So yeah, it just depends.
I love it. So I mean, like your choice between for the hip hop one and stuff like that, you had a goal at mind when you had the words that were chosen. You knew what you were going to be painting, and you had an idea for that. When you're making a piece that's just on your own, you're in your studio, you're making your own thing. when you have the choice between doing something that's more pop and graphic and something that's more realistic. If you don't have a particular inspiration that sparked it and you're just randomly sketching, do you end up doing something that fits into one category more than the other? I know you definitely have like that.
I guess in recent days more sort of the style of the works and the knockout. Yeah, if I'm just sort of messing around, but it depends. I also will grab a sketchbook and sketch out figures, you know, or it depends on going to one of Kat's classes or something, you know, getting inspired.
Cool. And you're really involved with the city and what's going on in the area, evident by the public pieces and things like that. What are you looking into doing coming up? What are some things that you have planned for larger projects or public projects?
Projects coming up. Also going to be part of the Gallery X show in June. There's a show in the Douglas Gallery downstairs called the Black Music Experience. And also taking submissions for that. And then I will be part of the Seaport Art Walk as well. I was accepted to that. So the Secret City Wheels, there's 5 more Jersey barriers down there that I'm going to add to and give a shout out to the fishing industry. So you'll see a lobster, and some scallops, and some flounder and stuff like that up here down there. That's on the docket. As far as events go, mark your calendars. June 13th, right here in this building, is with the AHA Pride Block Party. And I hope everyone comes to or is a part of. It's new this year at Steeple Playhouse, so thank you, Steeple, for hosting us. And also the block outside is going to be closed. We're shutting it down, and Gallery X will be part of it as well.
Nice. So, come on back. Full block party, cool. So we have some more slides here, right? Is that the last one? All right, cool.
Oh, no, it was
there were. All right.
JK, LOL. Okay, so this is a recent mural I did at our sister school in New Bedford, and so you see the image of, you know, 2 youngish girls sort of, you know, supposed to represent friendship. All the words were collected from the students there about their school, about their community. They have some core values, so those are in there as well. So these were a couple examples of that. This is about half the mural. I'm going to be finishing it coming up. So yeah, you see they all decided on the shapes too. You know, it was important to have representation as part of that.
So did you get to like sit down and talk with the students and kind of interact with them and talk to them about what was going to be shown?
Yeah, I went in there one day and it was great. You know, they do like a weekly meeting, and so that week it was, you know, the thing was me and this mural. So Joe Eugenio laid out actual pieces of paper on the ground, and they literally traced their bodies so that it was actually the students. So they could really get a vibe for what was going to be happening, and then they filled it in with words.
That's awesome. And it's really important to kind of include the younger generation when you're creating artwork. I've done similar things where you're talking about doing a piece of art, but having the kids actually have a hand in it makes a huge impact in how they perceive it and how they're involved with it.
Absolutely. I find that at the Third Eye events too. It's pretty cool. Kids, you know, really like to interact with that.
Yeah, Third Eye does a really good job at making everything be very community driven and community involved with that kind of stuff.
Right on. That's the goal.
Absolutely.
We're all in this together.
Love it. So I'm going to open it up for questions because you have a lot of really beautiful work here. There are 4 listed in the brochures if anybody wants to take a look. And then the ones that we had on the slides are also up for discussion as well. So do we have any questions from the crowd or anybody who wants to comment or say anything about the work? It's hard for me to see out there. All right. So we still have a little bit more time with you. So what do you, your growth as an artist and where you've led to be here today and working with the city so much, what were some impactful moments in your life that brought you to have your artwork depicted in these ways? What led you to try this style and kind of add some variety to your work versus the other stuff that you were doing in college?
So yeah, with this style in particular, I'm really inspired by our community. This city is amazing. It's super collaborative. I was excited to source these answers from people because I know people have passion about this city. So it was really inspiring to read people's answers to the question, what do you love about New Bedford? And it was like all over the place. A lot of kids answered, and it was like, one of the kids answered like hope and kindness. They were like 6 years old, and I'm like, oh my God, so awesome. But yeah, I'm really inspired. I'm really inspired by our community.
It's a big, beautiful community, and I'm so glad that you're part of it and that everybody here has been part of it and been able to interact with each other. And really, I think the arts are coming a long way at making the community a stronger, how do I even phrase it? We're coming together in a way that I've never seen before in this city. And I think that you're a huge part of that. So I do want to thank you for, thanks so much. I do want to thank you for coming out and showing us all of your work. And I think that right now we're going to transition into doing the afterglow. So our afterglow is the moment where all of the artists can talk with all of the crowd here. This was our Big, Bright, Bold show where all of our work was big, bright, and bold. If you guys look at the last page of your brochure, there's going to be a few QR codes back there. The QR codes back here kind of help keep the lights on. They keep us shining. So you can donate to the New Bedford Light in order to keep us being able to do these shows, being able to help other artists get exposure. And you can also subscribe to the New Bedford Light newsletter. Those are right back there. You just give them a little scan with your phone. It'll bring you to the page that you need to be on. We do have some refreshments in the back, and I would like to thank everybody for coming out, especially Mandy. So thank you, Mandy. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. We're going to open the house lights and walk around. So thank you so much, everybody.
Blaine, I'm really sorry, but thank you for being here.
Hey, that's what I do.
Well, I appreciate it. You're the only artist who walked by me.
Well, I knew that I was standing up.
And you came around.